More than half of American men have fantasized about seeing their partner with another man. So in a world of until death do us part, why does the idea of seeing our spouse in the sweaty embrace of another man so titillating? Today, we're digging into the world of cuckolding. We'll explore how the cuckold kink works, the psychology of why it turns us on, and if it might even have evolutionary origins. All to answer our rude question today, what's up with cuckolds? That's what you're in for today on Impolite Society.
Oh, I just detest rude, unladylike young ladies.
I hope you don't mind me being a tad rude.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Don't be rude.
That is some weird, wild stuff.
Shocking, isn't it?
It's a scandal!
But it's provocative.
Please stop making me blush.
Welcome to Impolite Society, the podcast that digs, dives, and delves into the underworld's happening, well, under our feet right this second. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Laura. And I guess you're right. Everything is the under. Digs, dives, delves, all those things, they're below.
Yeah,
because they're taboo, right?
That's how you get to the underworld, right? You gotta go down.
You gotta dive.
And delve.
And dig.
Da-da-dun. And complain, because I'm going to start off this episode with a complaint. I filed it to the Impolite Society HR director. And
did you email it to rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com? A very passive-aggressive way of giving your co-host feedback.
No, I would just rather mention it live on the air right here. Because these past few episodes, they've all been good. Don't get me wrong. They're really good. I've learned a lot about the brain, like new social movements, and then the brain some more. And honestly, I feel like this is all a little too highbrow for Impolite Society. So while I had planned to do another psychology episode today that I've literally been nonstop talking about since January 1st, I decided to throw that all out the window so we can return to the seedy underbelly of society.
I get that because the past 3 or 4 episodes, my parents have actually been listening. So this is a clear signal to me that we need to get back to Impolite Society basics, as in the most basic of all basic human needs, the fucking, my friend.
Quick aside, and we can cut this if we needed, but my favorite story about my experience with Laura's mom was when I met her at your birthday party and she complimented me or something. And I said, that's why I have a podcast. And she said, really? What podcast? Now she knows. Thank you.
No,
for
she
joining.
doesn't. It's in one ear, out the other. Done.
Well, yeah.
Gone.
I mean, I'm a faceless blob on here. I'm the other voice.
Really, when I say my parents, what I mean is my dad.
Well, that's okay, because I think my parents are the only 2 people listening to my other podcast. So that's fair.
That's not true. I am also listening.
Oh, my parents and Laura. That actually tracks with our numbers. Back to the show that I'm on right now. Would you believe that at this second, somewhere in the world, a man is sitting patiently, calmly, and very on purposely waiting for his wife while she is off having sex with another man? He might be back home waiting for her, in the living room listening, in the room watching, or even cleaning the fuck buddy's apartment while they're going at it.
I can believe it. And this is because I have been on the internet. This is a thing often mentioned. I'm not even sure where I see such things. But they exist. It's in the ether, in the interwebs. But also, how do I get literally anybody to clean my house while I'm doing something else? That's really that's why I'm tuning in.
Yeah,
I need to know.
I'm not even caring about the sex. I just want to have somebody clean my house for free.
Exactly.
Well, let me tell you, and it involves cuckolding, and that's what we're talking about today. What is going on with cuckolding, and how is that for highbrow?
Lowbrow is our moneymaker, as in, we actually don't make any money, but we give the people what they want. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but this was actually a listener suggestion.
I had forgotten.
Yes. Dakota from The Reluctant Historian submitted this to us ages and ages ago. We put it on the list, but since Reluctant Historian is now defunct, I'm going to call this a listener suggestion and not an indie inquiry, which was an old thing that we did kind of back when we were actually trying to grow and engage an audience. Now, purely a vanity project. We just do this because we want to. So, yeah, Dakota. I don't know if he still listens. Hey, Dakota.
Please reach out if you do. You were fun. You and your wife.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah. You had a good show.
You did. I enjoyed it.
So, it sounds like you know a little bit about cuckolding from your internet perusing and from making friends with other indie podcasters. Laura, what is your understanding of cuckolding?
From what I understand, it is a kink where a guy gets off on watching his lady get it from another man. That's just baseline understanding.
Oh, it's that and so much more. But before we get too hot and heavy in the bedroom, we need to do a little bit of word nerdery because it would not be a Rachel episode without it. So, very normal thing that most people remember. But do you remember the first time you heard the word cuckold?
I don't, but I think my introduction had to be literary in some way because I know it's an old-timey insult. My immediate thought was that I read this in Shakespeare somewhere, like somebody threw it out as an insult, but I think this insult is actually making a solid comeback on the before mentioned interwebs, but that's vaguely what I'm recalling.
You're spot on because I do remember the first time I was introduced to such word as the word cuckold, and it was actually in my AP English class while reading Shakespeare. So I would say spot on assessment because we were reading Othello when it came up, and our always edgy and cool AP English teacher, you know, he like sat backward in the chair and tried to like
he turned his
connect.
hat backwards. Did he rap?
He did not. We did not do any like Shakespeare rap battles, but we did have to do a trial of Iago, which I was the
that
head
actually sounds fun.
defense attorney for.
Ooh, of course you would be the defense attorney.
Anyway, so this guy who made us defend Iago also liked to be cool and teach us about weird Shakespeare sex stuff, like the beast with two backs, and of course what it meant to be a cuckold. But that Shakespeare bit is just where the origin story of cuckold begins. Cue the What We Do in the Shadows-esque montage of medieval artwork of men sporting horns and antlers as their beautiful wives gave lovingly at another hot dude to the tune of some twangy indie song.
Do 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 do.
Ooh. Because that's what played through my mind as I looked through all these paintings and illustrations of cuckolds of yore. So, as you rightly remembered, the term does date back to Middle English, and it comes from an adaptation of the word cuckoo, which is a family of bird that includes the European cuckoo. This bird is well known for its little habit of dumping its children into the nest of other birds for them to raise, often in the place of their own offspring, aka they are pushing the eggs out and leaving their eggs in return, leading to some really interesting instances because cuckoos are pretty big. And
They're large.
yes. Yeah. Wikipedia says a medium-sized bird, but they're big. And these little songbirds are raising these giant cuckoo chicks, and it's something to see.
Cuckoos are savage. I watched some bird documentary years and years ago. I was horrified by all the shit that birds do.
Well, they're little dinosaurs.
Yeah, and
Ruthless.
murdering these other birds' offsprings because it wasn't just eggs. Like, they would come in and throw the other tiny baby birds out of the nest to put their own little tiny baby bird in there. And yeah, any that stayed in the nest, like, they would basically smother by sitting on them and then taking all the food from the mama bird. And I'm like, this is disturbing.
Yeah, those little fuckers. Birds are ruthless. This is actually a very deep cut back to our Big Talk days when we did bird talk. because I'm pretty sure for a while there I would like bring up random bird facts. And so we called it bird talk instead of big talk. So like, we're really throwing it back with this episode.
Vaguely remember bird talk. Yeah.
Back to basics. Birds are fascinating. Cold-blooded bitches, literally. Actually, birds are warm-blooded.
Yeah.
But they have 3 chambers, hearts. So,
and they are cold. They're cold motherfuckers.
they're dinosaurs. They didn't make it this long by having a bleeding heart. But this proclivity for being deadbeat parents is what linked this bird to the concept of a spouse stepping out, specifically the woman in a relationship, because the original term cuckold was used as a jeer towards men who are raising another man's child. So your wife is unfaithful, and because of that, we cannot guarantee the paternity of Junior over there.
I also like cuckold as a concept because there are not a lot of words that apply to men in referencing like sexual behaviors. There's not a male equivalent for slut. There's not a male equivalent for mistress. And it's weird because cuckold has nothing to do with their actual sexual behavior. But in general, I'm just glad that humans have been able to cast some shade on men in bedroom activities if this is the only one word that we have for it.
That's actually a really good point, and I had not thought of that, but that is true. It is a good way to throw shade. And one of the major ways that it does that is by claiming that this man has failed what many say is life's main objective, which is passing down your genes. And that's just where the shame around being a cuckold begins. When you look at what may cause a woman to step out on her man, you'll see a lot of insinuations about her husband, including that he cannot satisfy her, whether that means he lacks the skill or he is just not well enough endowed or just basically man enough to get her where she needs to go.
Exactly. Throwing shade. That's why
Right.
I like this term.
Being a cuck is humiliating. It challenges the basic societal expectations of marriage and monogamy and the ideals of what it means to be a man. So naturally, when you're breaking a taboo and also playing with shame and humiliation, you get the unintended result of people being super horny.
That's humans. We're so fucking predictable, right?
It all goes back to horny.
It truly does. Like I said,
horny or hungry.
the H spectrum, horny or
Yeah.
hungry, horny or hungry.
Horny leads to hunger. Too
Hunger
much
leads to horny.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah, we're all in that spectrum.
The horny hungry dichotomy. So as you also mentioned, the term cuck has become a slur for a weak or soft man within a specific political identity, online and in person. It is much more commonly used by men, the cucks themselves, who are very much into it and enjoy the idea of their wife knowing other men in a biblical sense. So how does this situation work? Well, it of course includes a cuck or a cuckold, his wife, the cuckoldress. That's a mouthful.
Cuckoldress.
And in this relationship, she will, in partnership with her husband, find and have sexual relations with big macho men who in the community are called bulls. Wherever you get your kinky personal ads, not on Craigslist anymore, I checked, but wherever you do find them, I guarantee there's a post up there right this second seeking a buff, well-hung man to fuck some dude's wife.
And immediately when I read this, I thought, are these men paid for their services? Is this like a gigolo situation? Or is this a pro bono or pro boner situation, if you will? Like,
Yeah,
this is just for the
wordplay.
joy of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just people who are in the lifestyle. These are
Or
guys,
they just want to get fucked. Or
yeah, these are
do
guys
the
who
fucking,
want to
rather.
fuck, right? And I do want to call out, because I said lifestyle, cucking is different than the traditional polyamorous situation in a few ways. Let me explain. Number one, the man is typically monogamous, right? He's not getting any strange.
All right.
Number two, he's into the idea of his wife sleeping with other dudes, and not just in the compersion way that folks in polyamorous relationships talk about.
You're going to have to define that. I forget what compersion was.
Compersion is the satisfaction or the like warm fuzzies that come with knowing that your partner is enjoying the feeling of being in love. So it's kind of like the secondhand, like, oh, happy for you, but in a sincere way.
Okay.
Where
so
like,
this is not that.
This is not that. They're not like, oh, I'm happy because my spouse is happy sleeping with this random dude.
Got it.
And in fact, it goes beyond just like, I'm happy for her to being like, I'm horny by it, right? Because you have to be aroused by the thought or the image of someone else inside your wife.
Ooh. That inside your wife thing, that just made it a little bit visceral.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right. I mean, it's very accurate and a very good way to describe it.
And that image that you're having, visceral image, it has to include some shame, right? Because true cuckolding is different than another lifestyle called hot wifing, which is when the wife wants to be sleeping around and the husband likes the idea of his wife being desired by other men. He just doesn't jack off to the idea of it, right? Her dates are happening as a separate entity outside of their relationship and sex life, and he's happy for her for doing that. Like, the fact that she's so hot and all these guys want to have sex with her makes him feel like a bigger man, but at the same idea, it's like that's her thing she's doing on the side. It's like a little bit different.
That sounds more like polyamory.
Right, but the guy's still monogamous.
Oh.
Right,
okay.
So it's not full polyamory. So hot wifing's kind of like the step in between, if you're going to look at it
all
like
right.
that.
Got it.
Right.
All right.
While cuckolding still kind of centers the man in the whole situation, right? Because it's about his arousal due to said infidelity. So where hot wifing, a lady might go out and pick up a man, go back to their place, come home to her husband, life goes on.
But they do fuck in hot wifing, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
But with cuckolding, the wife is telling her husband about her date, how excited she is, how much better her lover is than her husband, etc. She might also be denying him access to her, right? Like, she's not sleeping with him to go sleep with this other guy. And it's a much more of an experience for all parties involved. The Venn diagram is not her sex life and their marriage. It's like, boop, because her sex life fuels the sex life of her marriage.
Got it. And so is this, they're always watching, or some of the time the cuckolds are watching, or never watching and just like waiting at home and cleaning their apartment, like you said? Or is this kind of a 31 flavors scenario? It can be whatever they want it to be.
It could be whatever it is, right?
Okay.
Like, and again, it's all up to the wife to decide. That's another thing. Like, the power is in her hands, and they can use that to try to humiliate their partner to whatever extent that they want. It could be making them drive her to her lover's house and then having them sit in the car. It could be sitting in the living room, hearing them have sex. It could be in the same room but facing the wall because they don't get to watch. Or it could be,
major BDSM vibes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. They're going to find that there's those Venn diagrams, boop, crisscross over. Because, you can even be like, in a dog kennel or something while this is happening. I feel like it's a common fantasy that like the guy breaks in, right, ties up the husband and then has his way with the wife. Like, that's
oh jeez.
I spent a lot of time reading on the subreddit. To be fair, I felt like 65% of that was fiction, but it was still, this is what's happening in their heads.
Okay, got it.
So you might be thinking at this point, who wants this, right? Who wants to see the love of their life being rammed by another dude? It turns out this impulse is not that uncommon after all. In his book, Tell Me What You Want, The Science of Sexual Desire and How It Can Help Improve Your Sex Life, Justin Lay-Miller surveyed thousands of Americans and discovered that 58% of men and around a third of women have thought about cuckolding.
That's a large percentage.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot. Over half, almost a third. We'll notice that men are much more likely to think about it than ladies. So looking at those numbers, it's not a surprise that men are often the ones to introduce this idea into a marriage. As shown in the surveys and told anecdotally on the online forums, men are typically the instigators of this fantasy, and they so happen that the women, after being maybe like convinced to partake, will eventually find themselves enjoying it after they get started, right? Because they're like, oh, wow, I am hot. I'm desired. Like, that feels good.
This does seem like a win-win on both sides to me personally. I don't know what that says about me. But I also say good for us as ladies and for society in general, because I feel like too many kinks really involve the degradation of women. And I feel like this one maybe tips the scale a little bit. Or is that a wrong way to think?
No, that's that. Yeah, I'm all for the tipping the scales. That a win-win, it does not sound like so much of a win-win to me because like one penis is enough. I don't want to try to
I don't know. I assume if you're the kind of person who is like open to kinkiness in the bedroom, it means you're also the kind of person who likes a lot of D. I'm not that person.
The thing is, the wives are like, sometimes they meet this idea with hesitancy and it takes like the building up to it.
To each their own.
The part of this that appeals to me, and I know I've talked about this, where it's like rent a date or wherever. We're like, yeah, I want to go out to a fancy restaurant and like flirt with somebody who I like, or I don't know, like
semi-like.
Have chemistry with, and then come home and crash out on the couch. Is there a kind
just
of
like get rid of the whole
cuckolding?
Sex portion of this?
Yeah, and just like have them take me places that are interesting that my husband doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
Is that a kink? Because I could get into that.
I don't think anybody's jacking off to it, so no, it's not a kink.
Oh, well, maybe I will. Maybe you know what I do after we get off this call.
After I bomb out on the couch, maybe
I'm like, oh, yes, pleasant conversation. That's not about children. So why do all these couples in bulls find this idea so exhilarating? Well, for the cuckolders in the bulls, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? They're getting that hot, no strings attached sex, maybe some fun dates mixed in there as well. But for the little cuck in the corner, what they get out of it isn't so obvious. What makes being cuckolded so erotic? Well, to find out, let's look at psychology. First and foremost, cuckolding is so titillating because it breaks a very strongly held societal norm that we are to be monogamous, that the marriage bed is sacred, and that we have to keep our sexual urges secret and in the dark, especially if we're ladies. So like the idea here is that most cheating and affairs are supposed to be kept in the dark, but the fact that you're like brazenly doing it and talking to your spouse about it, that is subverting so many societal norms, and it makes this idea dark and edgy and exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like this is pretty much proven in studies, like kind of secondhand, in a very famous study that looks at the differences in cuckolding fantasies between heterosexual and gay men. This study was done by old Justin from earlier in partnership with psychologist and author of Insatiable Wives, David Lay, as well as Dan Savage. No introduction needed.
Savage love.
They found that gay cuckolding fantasies are different than straight ones and are relatively newer. This is anecdotal, not scientific data, but Mr. Savage reported not hearing a lot about gay cuckolding. That was until the year 2015. Now, what changed in 2015? The Marriage Equality Act.
Ah, true equality, where we're all bored with our partners.
Yes. Now those gays can finally get married so they can enjoy the hot sex that comes from breaking those sacred vows, just like the heteros, as God intended. But I will even say it's not about being stale with your partner. It's literally about the fact that you're breaking the societal taboo of marriage, right? Because those people might have been with their partner for decades, but then once they get married, the idea of doing this cuckolding,
there's a ceiling to smash through.
Exactly. Once you bring that ceiling to smash, then boom, your partner having sex with someone else suddenly seems hotter. And because those taboos are different within the communities, what you dig into what makes these fantasies hot, some key differences appear between the gay and straight men. you'll find that gay men tend to have more emphasis on the elements of voyeurism, right? They just like to watch, and as well as group sex. So maybe the
Shocker.
cuck is while the straights are not at any moral higher standing, don't get me wrong.
No.
They tend to focus more on interracial sex and BDSM.
I hadn't really thought of BDSM, like in the sense of, cock and ball cage and, I guess leather whips and chains. I hadn't really thought of that as big of being the cuckold community or the cuck community, which I've decided to call it.
Oh,
but,
cute.
but of course it is.
Point.
But my hope on that is more on the male being on the submissive side, because that kind of tracks with my leveling of the scales.
Yeah, that's
right. But
that's the way it works.
yeah, okay, good. But the interracial thing, this has always bummed me the fuck out. That a person's ethnic identity is a fetish. Talk about depersonification, but I know you're going to get to that aspect of it. I just had to comment on it here because woof.
Woof is right. Because when you look at that, the inversion of the dominant spectrum and the race, there's definitely something at work here for the hetero men that goes beyond the taboo of breaking marriage vows.
Yeah.
So when you look at it through the lens of gender, in the cuckolding situation, you're exactly right. The woman takes on the role of power. She is the dominant in the situation. She's the one that's in control of what bull she's riding when they're getting together, what level of involvement the cuck gets in the situation. And this flips are widely accepted gender scripts that a man should dominate and have control and authority over his wife. But let's be real. These cucks aren't getting their little wimpy dicks hard at the thought of sticking it to the patriarchy. What they're getting out of it is good, straight, old-fashioned humiliation. So, in other words, this is a sub-dom play, or a version of it, where the woman is the dom and is practicing sadism by forcing her partner to be aware of her infidelity.
Forcing, quote,
right.
unquote.
And as we talked about, there's more subs in the world. Subs want to play more often.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Oh, this is fascinating. I really had a field day with this one. But this old gold standard for sexual arousal, power play, right? So in the words of Anna Poli, sex columnist at the Chicago Tribune, cuckoldry takes our deep shames and insecurities and then eroticizes them. Watching a partner with someone else, being present and orchestrating that humiliation themselves is a way to take back power in a situation where they might otherwise feel powerless. It's mental masochism. And that's so funny how every kink we cover seems to come right back to masochism. Apparently, we're all masochists. Quick aside, why? Why? What glitch happened in our society that made us all get hot and bothered by being degraded? Idea for a future episode. Is this a universal thing or is this a Western culture thing? Do apes have it? Is there something we created by our repressing specific parts of being a human, or is this just a side effect of being super hyper social? These are not things that I have answers to today, but these are some big questions I had while doing this research.
These are all good questions that I probably would have felt like I could cover earlier in the series when I thought I could get my arms around giant questions like that.
And then
I don't know, man.
We point and counterpoint for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Good questions. Don't have an answer.
That's the musing part. We leave that up to you now. Y'all have to contribute here. But anyways, when you look at it from this angle, you start to pull it apart a little bit, looking at the shame and humiliation. This is where it gets a little bit yucky, especially with the racial element.
Yep.
Yeah, because when it's your property, wife, cheating on you with the person whose skin color is different than you wonder if the humiliation part comes from the wedding vows, or does that have more to do with your ideas of where people rank in the social structure? Because if it's more degrading for a black man to fuck your wife than a white dude, this is where you might have to start asking yourself some serious questions.
This is my exact thought as well. I mean, the fetishization of the black male is a strange fucking concept to me. Maybe that's one for the topic list. Maybe that's one we can get our arms
I'm
around.
not touching that.
Maybe.
No, thank you.
Because I see it. A lot of porn for women involves a lot of BBC, big black cock, and it does. It gives me the willies, the big willies. And I'm just like, no, thank you. Creepy. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's bringing back stuff from like 200 years ago almost. It's still here. And it's stuff that ended people's lives, children's lives.
It's
like, that's why
weird.
I'm not going to do it, because it's such a fucking bummer.
Yeah, fair.
God,
fair.
our country has some really deep wounds
I
that
mean,
we have not healed.
That's every country. I feel like the world. Like, we talk about generational
Oh,
trauma.
well, yeah,
right?
but if you're just going to look at like race and the sexualization
Yeah.
of black folks, like that,
I mean, that's exactly what it has to do with.
thing,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, you're right. I'm not touching it with a fucking 10-foot pole. All right, continue.
We'll let people who are more equipped to do that, because
Fair.
that's not, you came here to hear about cucks, not to be indoctrinated with the woke agenda. So let's get to it. But before I move on to the next thing, let me just get one more point in here. Because when it comes to this triad here, the external guy is called the bull. Bull, right? An animal who is known for violence, brutality, and like their lustful sexuality. And if you don't think about it too much, it's fine. Like, it's like, oh yeah, the bull. But then when you start to peel back the layers and you realize that this term can mostly be applied, and even ideally for some cucks, to black men, it feels like there's a little bit more weight than at the first glance.
Yeah, as in calling them cattle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Creepy.
Yeah. A dangerous animal, the big testicles that dudes hang on the back of their trucks. It's dehumanizing, and it reduces them to violent and lustful.
Yeah. Not real people. Yeah, exactly.
And that's
gross.
gross.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, we're not going to get into all that. That's too highbrow for us today.
We're talking in P and V action.
But think about it and maybe like reflect on it. We're not
On
here
your
to
own time.
judge. We're here for growth. But all that
I
aside,
approve.
sexuality is fucking complicated, man. Humans and shame and what turns us on, it's all very weird and complex and wormy, swarmy. So while you might be turned on by these things, we don't always stop to think about it, you know, why it happens vis-a-vis the choking conversation. But that's food for thought. Okay, next thing. I'm not going to be serious anymore, guys. This is the cuck episode. So another reason that a man might like this is something we can all get behind, and that's just being a little gay. Just a bit. Because one thing you'll hear about cuckolds anecdotally is that they tend to present themselves as macho men in their daily lives, right? Like, you can envision them in your mind. Envision the person who's driving a big lifted Dodge Ram, or perhaps a Cybertruck, or another kind of status symbol car, whatever it is in your area. I just imagine him. He's like a little bit short. Maybe he's got a big belt buckle. I don't know why the belt buckle jumped in. I'm picturing Curly's wife from Of Mice and Men, who was like this big, like macho dude, Vaseline hand.
You
like,
mean Curly's husband? Or
Yes, yeah, Curly.
yeah.
Curly wife's husband. Curly.
Got it. Yeah, gotcha.
That's like what I'm bringing in my head. I'm too literary today. Again, I just getting pulled back to the highbrow. But if you didn't know about these people, these guys, you might be able to guess they're a little insecure. Because if they weren't, this whole thing wouldn't work.
I heard somewhere that it's also tied to gender roles. Like, if you're this man's man who's very strict about gender roles, you know, I make the money and the woman stays home, and it's more likely to be a taboo for you, and therefore even hotter. And it's kind of like the inverse of the BDSM thing. As women got more independence outside of the bedroom, they saw more and more women in the BDSM community. Like, you're attracted to something that's opposite of what you experience in your daily life. So all that to say, those alpha influencers, We see you. We hear what you really want, son.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good point, too, because the people who they call cucks, like as an insult, are probably the ones who are least likely to do it.
Exactly. It's them.
We always knew the lady doth protest
The
too much.
lady doth protest too much. I love that phrase.
So, outside of the fact that they all want to see their wives get fucked by a big dude, what else do we know about these little big guys? Well, they are all suppressing their homoerotic tendencies, right? Again, they doth protest too much. Just check the fact that Grindr crashed from too much use at the Republican National Convention.
Did it really?
Oh, girl, this is a real story.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I almost linked it
I
here.
believe you. I just mean I want to read about it. I'm not saying check that out as in I don't believe you. I want to read about it.
We don't fact check.
No, we do not fact check. I just want to enjoy the irony.
Yeah, no, it is a thing. It is documented. I saw news articles about it. And they're just out there trying to find somebody to fuck their wives or their running mates. I don't know. So let's just say these dudes, they just want to be naked with other dudes, right? But in a no homo kind of way. So how's a little friend from Narnia going to accomplish this? Why? By using his beautiful wife, to lure men into their marriage bed. So cucks might not be in control and do the actual fucking, but they can be pretty involved in the debauchery their cuckoldresses enjoy. This can be anywhere from helping her select her partner from the pool of applicants, examining and critiquing the men who are interested. It can also involve the cuck being involved in the cleanup, which, in the most concise and uncouth terms, is just the end result of a BJ with more work.
Ooh. Is it? That is pretty fucking taboo. The end result of a BJ with more work. Can I just spell this out? Is it the cuckold eating out the wife that just got
100%?
Wow,
or licking it off her, or the floor, or the carpet, or the bed.
That is very taboo. That is very debauched
and degrading for said cuck.
Yeah.
Also, on the subreddit for cucks, read stories of times that cucks were quote unquote forced to perform sex acts on the bull themselves, whether in addition to his wife or in her place. Which, sure, you can chalk that up to humiliation, but come on. If you want to suck dick, you could just suck dick. You don't need to do this whole rigmarole. You can just go to the RNC and get your grinder going.
I mean, it definitely seems like they put a lot of extra steps into the process.
No kidding.
Like you said, you can play it off to humiliation. It definitely seems like an extra step of that, like a deeper phase. So you, as the cuck, are now in place of the woman being used by a man, and being in the place of a woman. You can't imagine anywhere lower than that, of course.
Right?
Being the
don't
woman.
pull the threads.
But as you said, human sexuality it's really complex, and sometimes it's the scenario and the mental game that's more than half the thrill, as opposed to who is doing the fucking necessarily. I don't know. A lot of different ways to think about it.
Okay. I don't mean to poke fun, guys. All the cucks who found this from the cuck message board, don't get your penis cages in a twist. We don't want a repeat of the adult baby lovers. I'm never letting that go. That's honestly the most fame we've ever had. Here's the part where I validate you. Here is where I talk about why cuckoldry is not only effective at making sex hotter, but something we're evolved to do. Dun, dun, dun! Because I wanted to take it back to a more classic implied society, right? That's the theme here. We're throwing it back. And it would not be a classic implied society without a heaping helping of evolutionary biology. Research suggests that sperm competition theory, aka the sperm economy, or the idea that the male body adjusts his sperm production based on how secure he feels with his lady, is a contributing factor to what makes cuckolding so damn fun. Because if you have your lady locked down, you don't need to burn more energy than needed in creating buku sperm. But if you think you might not be the only one ringing your lady's bell, then you better get those swimmers up and at 'em.
I just want to think about the sperm economy.
Well, that's a term I just made up. And it's
No,
just
I like it. I like it.
supply
More
and
bang for
demand,
your buck.
right?
Literally.
I'm going to give you as much sperm as I think you need in this moment.
Yeah.
And
Scarcity.
that's actually proven in studies that show men who spend time away from their partners, they want to bone down more when they're together, and they like ejaculate more during their ejaculations. And that's like adjusted for something. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm away and I'm horny. It was like over all of their time together, they wanted to have more sex than just being like, I have pent up
Sexual energy.
Yes, exactly. So to use the most scientific terms, the idea that your lady might, or, you know, in the case of cuckolds, most definitely, has been with another man makes you come harder. If you think that she's had sex with somebody else, you're going to produce more sperm. You're going to push that sperm out. It like makes your orgasms more intense. It can also make you horny on the spot. If you see your lady making the beast with two backs with somebody else, it's to raise your mast so that you can get that little mushroom head of your penis to scoop all the goop out of her and make room for your own.
I don't have any comment for that.
I've actually heard this both ways too, right? Where women get aroused by the sight of other people copulating because their body is like, oh, fuck, we're next. Might as well get ready for it. And then on vice versa, if you see your partner having sex, you're like, well, I got to go replace that. You know, I got to go do something about this. So then you're like ready and raring to go. I mean, it might also be a helpful thing where it's just like if you see your girl having sex and then you breed with her right after, then maybe that's your kid. So you're going to take care of it. There could be a lot going on here.
Evolutionary biology wise, yeah.
But the moral of the story is that posting an ad to FetLife to track down a willing dude to bang your wife while you were hogtied in the corner is really the most natural thing. Let's not forget. Okay, well, I jest. I can definitely see where this idea comes from and how it could actually benefit in some of the more tamer levels of the cuckold lifestyle. And even hot wifing, right? Because you're knowing that your wife is getting it from other guys.
All you need to do is know it, and a little dude responds.
Precisely. Like, I totally believe that knowing your wife is getting action can inspire the feelings of lust and that instinctual drive to reproduce, as well as the piece that I don't think the studies are covering, which is that drive to cement the social bond, right? Like talking about cunnilingus, throw back to that episode. Whereby a guy doing that for his lady, they're building that emotional connection. So I think that factors. I think that factors in as well. Because a lot of the testimonials I read, the cuck feels like he's reconquering his wife, right? He's taking back, he's being the man, he's claiming her for his own. But also they feel warm fuzzies that they're secure in their relationship because sure, she could go out and sow her oats, but she's always going to choose to come back to him.
I can see that. That's very primal. Very, not necessarily.
Very sexy.
Yeah. And
Primal
it's
sexy.
Primal sexy. Yeah. It's not, the mind fuck of, whatever other things that we were talking about. It's more, like you said, boiled down version.
Right. It's definitely the more like romantic, maybe. Where it's just like, I always choose you.
Yeah.
Yep. But there it is, man. That's cuckolding kind of in a nutshell. Where it came from, where it go, the psychology and evolutionary behind it. Cotton Eye Joe. Did that land? I don't know.
Yes,
I just try
totally.
to put.
I'm old. Of course, Cotton Eye Joe will always land.
Okay, so before we sign off for the day, we're not a how-to podcast. Like, we've never said that we're going to solve your problems or teach you how to do anything. But just for a minute, let me talk you through how one might dip their toes into the world of cuckoldry. Because as one very upset listener emailed us, we have the power to convince people to end it all. So one must assume that this very episode will drive hundreds, if not thousands, of committed and monogamous individuals into the strong, sweaty, thrusting embrace of throbbing bulls around the internet.
The assisted suicide episode. I would say that I'm sorry, but I'm not. Killing yourself is dumb. Come at me.
That's a whole nother conversation with the pendulum swing. Like, it's good that people are saying it's normal. It feels sad, but like, strong people get help. Sad, like, losers go the other way. Sorry. That's a bold take, but I think we're on the cutting edge of that pendulum swing. Don't be a loser.
Boom.
Live. Anyways, here's how to explore this fantasy without posting your FetLife ad just yet. Since this is a pretty big relationship undertaking, and it's not all sunshine, the cucks will tell you that. It's not all sunshines and chastity belts. There is a lot of emotional work that has to go in. So, to start, begin with, like, telling stories. If you want to explore, make up little sexy situations and fictional stories for your lover. Have your lover make up sexy situations and little fictional fantasies about them with other people and have them tell them to you during your sexy times.
Ooh, yeah. I think that is definitely a good intro point because not only you're not dictating the terms, you know what I mean? Like if she's coming up with it in her head, that's not something that you can control. So you're going to see how you respond to that with like her taking direction. That's a very good first step.
Right. And it's them with somebody else and it's not real. So you can't really get mad about it.
Yeah.
And if you find that adds a little bit of spice to your life without adding too much emotional relationshipal turmoil, then you can have your partner talk about past sexual experiences.
Ooh, real things.
Things that have happened with them and other people. And if that doesn't get under your skin, you can do all the deep conversations, all the pre-work, and that's when you might be ready to have your partner go out and get some strange. Then tell you all about it. And if you are still begging for more at that point and are a lucky little cuck, you might even get invited into the room to watch. So again, take it slow, do some other things before you dive headfirst into the lifestyle. Now, before anybody gets too excited with this step-by-step guide to becoming a cuck, you know, at the highest level, I think it's time we wrap it up in its little penis cage or whatever. So many penis cages on the subreddit. I did not know that had so much to do with cuckolding, but
really interesting. I mean, I guess that tracks.
Does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not even allowed to get horny, but that makes
well,
you
you're allowed
horny.
to get horny. You just can't do anything about it.
So it's time to put the cage on this penis. We hope you laughed. We hope you cried. But most importantly, we hope you've learned something. It might not be useful or improved your life, and definitely isn't something you can pull out to dazzle acquaintances at your next dinner party. But it's yours now. Treasure it. Love it. Hold it close. Tuck it into that little penis cage.
But do you know what we love more than watching our loves and our life partners getting reamed? It's a 5-star review, ladies and gentlemen. So if you enjoyed this show, share it with another open-minded, more adventurous friend.
Right. Let them know
Not
that
one
you
for
want them
parents.
to fuck your wife. And Laura's parents. Make sure they get it.
And if you're on YouTube, comment, please. It helps the algorithm. Rate, subscribe, push that thumbs up or bell or whatever the fuck it is that gets you.
That's what the kids
smash. I'm sorry.
Say.
Smash that subscribe button. Make sure you get more of our smart and really dirty content. You can also reach out to us, rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com, or the link in the show notes to text us your experiences as a cuck or bull or a hot wife, whichever it may be. It's anonymous. We cannot get your phone number from that text messages. I just want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, try to shock us. I don't think I can be shocked. I read a lot of comments on the Cuckold Psychology subreddit, so I feel like I got a good grip on what is going on out there. But
let us know.
I want to hear it. Tell us. And at that point, I think it's time to pull the plug on today's episode. Until next time, may your wives be hot, your bulls come easy, and your hearts be full of shame, you filthy animals. Stay curious and keep marching to the beat of your own drum.